How do you understand native speakers better when they're speaking to you? Sometimes you're listening to or practicing a language with a native speaker and you just can't understand what they're saying. They speak so quickly. In this video, I'm going to give you tips on how you can better understand native speakers when they're talking to you and how to use that to your advantage to maintain a conversation instead of being surprised because you're not sure what they said and you're not sure how to respond to them. Hi, I'm James. I'm a native English speaker. Puedo hablar español e anche posso parlare italiano. I help people reach a conversational level in a different language. So in this video, I'm going to cover 3 different areas. Point number 1. Understand the context of the conversation where possible. So if you're in a restaurant and you've ordered food or something, think about what could be asked back to you. If you understand what's going on, you can understand the gist of what to expect in a normal conversation. It's easy though if there's a more niche or specific context, like if you walk into a hotel and you're expected to say your name, they might ask for your passport details or something, or you might be asked to provide a credit card for payment, and you might be given your room number. You might also want to know what the Wi-Fi is. Things like that. If you are in a certain context and you know what to expect, then it can be a lot easier to work out what they might be asking you in that situation. Knowing the context helps massively because then you can refine and work out what they're actually saying to you based on what could be happening in your native language. You might find that at home, if you go to a restaurant and they say, would you like any drinks or starters? You probably know that that's what you can expect if you're on holiday as well. They follow the same line of conversation. So if you know that's the context, you're in a restaurant and you're ordering food or drinks, and you know what to expect, it can be so much easier to think about what they could be saying back to you using an educated guess rather than having to know every single word. On that note, I've created a free email course on how to practice with native speakers in your target language. It gives you advice on how to find them and also how to make the most of your efforts practicing with them. There's a link in the description below if you're interested. That brings me on to point number 2. Don't expect to be able to understand every single word that a native speaker is saying when they're talking to you. Quite often, even in our native language, we have accent differences. So I might be from Manchester talking to someone from Liverpool or from London, and they might say a word and I don't quite understand it. But that's fine because in context, I can work out, oh, they probably meant that, or they probably mean this sort of thing based on this context. So you can use that to your advantage. And when someone's talking to you, don't focus on every single word. Focus on the general gist of the conversation. Look at their body language, if they're smiling or if they look like they're asking you a question or they're confused. Look at their body language and focus on what they don't say as well. The way they communicate something to you might indicate there's a question or something about this situation. So while it's tempting to try and understand every single word and 100% of what a native speaker is saying to you, you can still understand enough to be able to respond and to think, okay, that's the general conversation, let's reply based off this. So if, for example, you only understand half of the words that have been said to you, you can reply based on that. That is enough information, given you have the context, and given you know what to expect, and you've heard roughly a few words around the context, you can then be pretty sure that your reply is going to be along the right lines of what they're saying to you. Another point on this is when it comes to understanding what native speakers are saying, in our native language, we don't translate to any language. We just feel the words and we know what the meaning of hot, cold, car, everyday items like a table, for example, we know what they mean already. We don't have to translate, and that's why we're fluent. Fluency in a different language means you don't have to translate between them. You can just feel what the word means. So, and that's done by using your emotions and having an emotional attachment to a certain word. So rather than focusing on every single word that they're saying, try and relax the part of your mind that's trying to translate to your native language and try and just feel the gist of what someone's saying to you. It's very difficult to portray this using words, but as an example, you might know that if I say the word hot to you, you might imagine fire or a beach or something like that. You have your imagination attached to that word. If I say to you, hola, if those of you who may be native in English learning Spanish, you know that means hello. You don't have to translate it because you already have an emotional attachment to that because the first thing people learn when learning Spanish is the word hola, which means hello. So you'll have associated that with an emotion already. That's one example, and there's many other examples, but essentially don't try and translate it directly in your head. Try and feel what that word means to you emotionally, and then it will be a lot easier when a native speaker is speaking to you very, very quickly to think, okay, I feel like I know what they're talking about now. You're using your feelings rather than trying to directly translate the word into your native language, and that saves a lot of time, which means you can keep up with the rate of speech of the other person. Point number 3, the final thing I want to say is that you've got the context of where you are in a restaurant or a bar, whatever situation you're in. Then you have understood maybe half of the words or a few words, and you've sort of made an accurate estimation as to what they say. You then reply. But the question is here, you want to be able to confirm that what you heard is the correct thing of what they're saying to you. So you want to make sure you heard it correctly. Now what you can do is repeat it back to them. You can clarify. We do this in our native language. You might be at a work meeting and you just say, "Oh, just to clarify, do you mean this? Do you mean X, Y, Z?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean," or "Oh no, slightly different." So if, for example, you're in a restaurant and someone says to you, "Would you like any starters?" You could say back to them, for example, "Oh, are you asking about starters?" Or something like that. That's one example, and there's many more examples. But you could say, "Oh, do you mean this? Oh, is this what you mean?" sort of thing, and repeat it back in that language and use the exact words that they used, just so that you have a better idea that you know that you're responding in the correct way. They will also appreciate you for doing this as well, because they'll appreciate that you're trying to respond accurately to what they're saying. Ultimately, talking with a native speaker and trying to understand what's being said to you can be very difficult, especially if they're talking at their normal rate and they're talking really quickly to you. It can sometimes catch you off guard and surprise you a bit, which makes it hard to think in that language again. But with these tips, understand the context, don't try and know every single word that's being said to you, and also ask for clarification or repeat what's just been said to you, but in your own words, just to make sure you're understanding it properly. With these 3 tips, you should have a better chance at understanding native speakers. So that's it. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like, and also feel free to subscribe if you like this kind of content. Thanks, and see you later.